The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, One Existence Appearing as Many, lecture delivered by Swamiji in New York in 1896, Part 2. How does the Advaitist theory explain these various phases of heaven and hell and these various ideas we find in all the religions? When a man dies, it is said he goes to heaven or hell, goes here or there, or that when a man dies, he is born again in another body, either in heaven or in another world or anywhere. These are all hallucinations. Really speaking, nobody is ever born or dies. There is neither heaven nor hell, nor this world. All three never really existed. Tell a child a lot of ghost stories and let him go out into the street in the evening. There is a little stump of a tree. What does the child see? A ghost, with hands stretched out ready to grab him. Suppose a man comes from the corner of the street wanting to meet his sweetheart. He sees that stump of the tree as the girl. A policeman comes from the street corner and sees the stump as a thief. The thief sees it as a policeman. It is the same stump of a tree that is seen in various ways. The stump is the reality, and the visions of the stump are the projections of various minds. There is one being, this self. It neither comes nor goes. When a man is ignorant, he wants to go to heaven or some place, and all his life he's been thinking and thinking about this. And when this earth dream vanishes, he sees this world as a heaven with devas and angels flying about and all such things. If a man all his life desires to meet his forefathers, he gets them all from Adam downwards because he creates them. If a man is still more ignorant and has always been frightened by fanatics with the ideas of hell, with all sorts of punishment when he dies, he will see this very world as hell. All that is meant by dying or being born is simply changes in the plane of vision. Neither do you move, nor does that move upon which you project your vision. You are the permanent, the unchangeable. How can you come and go? It is impossible. You are omnipresent. The sky never moves. But the clouds move over the surface of the sky, and we may think that the sky itself moves. Just as when you are in a railway train, you think the land is moving. It is not so, but it is the train which is moving. You are where you are. These dreams, these various clouds move. One dream follows another without connection. There is no such thing as law or connection in this world. But we are thinking that there is a great deal of connection. All of you have probably read Alice in Wonderland. It is the most wonderful book for children that has been written in this century. When I read it, I was delighted. It was always in my head to write that sort of a book for children. What pleased me most in it was what you think most incongruous. That there is no connection there. One idea comes and jumps into another without any connection. When you were children, you thought that the most wonderful connection. So this man brought back his thoughts of childhood, which were perfectly connected to him as a child, and composed this book for children. And all these books which men write, trying to make children swallow their own ideas as men, are nonsense. We too are grown-up children, that's all. The world is the same unconnected thing, Alice in Wonderland, with no connection whatsoever. When we see things happen in a number of times in a certain sequence, we call it cause and effect and say that thing will happen again. When this dream changes, another dream will seem quite as connected as this. When we dream, the thing we see all seem to be connected. During the dream, we never think that they are incongruous. It is only when we wake that we want to see the connection. When we wake from this dream of the world and compare it with the reality, it will be found all incongruous nonsense, a mass of incongruity passing before us. We do not know whence or whither, but we know it will end, and this is called Maya, and is like masses of fleeting, fleecy clouds. They represent all this changing existence. And the sun itself, the unchanging, is you. When you look at the unchanging existence from the outside, you call it God. And when you look at it from the inside, you call it yourself. It is but one. There is no God separate from you, no God higher than you, the real you. All the gods are little beings to you. All the ideas of God and Father in heaven are but your own reflection. God Himself is your image. God created man after His own image. That is wrong. Man creates God after his own image. That is right. Throughout the universe, we are creating gods after our own image. We create the God and fall down at His feet and worship Him. And when this dream comes, we love it. This is a good point to understand that the sum and substance of this lecture is that there is but one existence, and that one existence seen through different constitutions appears either as the heaven, the earth, the hell, or gods or ghosts, or men or demons, or world, or all these things. But among these many, he who sees that one in this ocean of death, he who sees that one life in this floating universe, who realizes that one who never changes, unto him belongs eternal peace, unto none else, unto none else. This one existence has to be realized. How is the next question? How is it to be realized? How is this dream to be broken? How shall we wake up from this dream that we are little men and women and all such things? We are the infinite being of the universe and have become materialized into these little beings, men and women, depending upon the sweet word of one man or the angry word of another, and so forth. What a terrible dependence, what a terrible slavery. I am beyond all pleasure and pain, whose reflection is the whole universe, little bits of whose life are the suns and the moons and stars. I am held down as a terrible slave. If you pinch my body, I feel pain. If one says a kind word, I begin to rejoice. See my condition, slave of the body, slave of the mind, slave of the word, slave of the good word, slave of a bad word, slave of passion, slave of happiness, slave of life, slave of death, slave of everything. This slavery has to be broken. How? This Atman has to be first heard, then reasoned upon, and then meditated upon. This is the method of the Advaita Jnani. The truth has to be heard, then reflected upon, and then to be constantly asserted. Think always, I am Brahma. Every other thought must be cast aside as weakening. Cast aside every thought that says that you are men or women. Let body go and mind go and gods go and ghosts go. Let everything go but that one existence. Where one hears another, where one sees another, that is small. Where one does not hear another, where one does not see another, that is infinite. That is the highest when the subject and the object become one. When I am the listener and I am the speaker, when I am the teacher and I am the taught, when I am the creator and I am the created, then alone fear ceases. There is not another to make us afraid. There is nothing but myself who can frighten me. This is to be heard day after day. Get rid of all other thoughts. Everything else must be thrown aside. And this is to be repeated continually, poured through the ears until it reaches the heart. Until every nerve and muscle, every drop of blood tingles with the idea that I am He, I am He. Even at the gate of death say, I am He. There was a man in India, a sannyasi, who used to repeat, Shivoham, I am blessed eternal. And a tiger jumped on him one day and dragged him away and killed him. But as long as he was living, the sound came, Shivoham, Shivoham. Even at the gate of death, in the greatest of danger, in the thick of the battlefield, at the bottom of the ocean, on the tops of the highest mountains, in the thickest of the forest, tell yourself, I am He, I am He. Day and night say, I am He. It is the greatest strength. It is religion. The weak will never reach the Atman. Never say, O Lord, I am a miserable sinner. Who will help you? You are the help of the universe. What is this universe that can help you? Where is the man or the god or the demon to help you? What can prevail over you? You are the God of the universe. Where can you seek for help? Never help came from anywhere but from yourself. In your ignorance, every prayer that you made and that was answered, you thought was answered by some being. But you answered the prayer yourself unknowingly. The help came from yourself, and you fondly imagined that someone was sending help to you. There is no help for you outside of yourself. You are the creator of the universe. Like a silkworm, you have built a cocoon around yourself. Who will save you? Burst your own cocoon and come out as a beautiful butterfly, as a free soul. Then alone you will see the truth. Ever tell yourself, I am He. These are words that will burn up the dross that is in the mind. Words that will bring out the tremendous energy which is within you already. The infinite power which is sleeping in your heart. This is to be brought out by constantly hearing the truth and nothing else. Wherever there is thought of weakness, approach not that place. Avoid all weakness if you want to be a jnani. Before you can begin to practice, clear your mind of all doubts. Fight and reason and argue. And when you have established it in your mind that this and this alone can be the truth and nothing else, do not argue anymore. Close your mouth. Hear not argumentation, neither argue yourself. What is the use of any more arguments? You have satisfied yourself, you have decided the question. What remains? The truth has now to be realized. Therefore, why waste valuable time in vain arguments? The truth has now to be meditated upon. And every idea that strengthens you must be taken up, and every thought that weakens you must be rejected. The Bhakta meditates upon the forms and images of all such things and upon God. This is the natural process, but a slower one. The yogi meditates upon various centers in his body and manipulates powers in his mind. The jnani says the mind does not exist, neither the body. This idea of the body and the mind must go, must be driven off. Therefore, it is foolish to think of them. It would be like trying to cure one ailment by bringing in another. His meditation, therefore, is the most difficult one. The negative, he denies everything. And what is left is the self. This is the most analytical way. The jnani wants to tear away the universe from the self by sheer force of analytics. It is very easy to say I am a jnani, but very hard to be really one. The way is long, as it were walking on the sharp edge of a razor, yet despair not. Arise, awake, and stop not until the goal is reached, say the Vedas. So, what is the meditation of the jnani? He wants to rise above every idea of the body or mind to drive away the idea that he is the body. For instance, when I say I, Swami, immediately the idea of the body comes. What must I do then? I must give the mind a hard blow and say, no, I am not the body, I am the self. Who cares if disease comes or death in the most horrible form? I am not the body, I am the self. Who cares if disease comes in the most horrible form? Why make the body nice? To enjoy the illusion once more? To continue the slavery? Let it go. I am not the body. This is the way of the jnani. The Bhakta says, the Lord has given me this body that I may safely cross the ocean of life, and I must cherish it until the journey is accomplished. The yogi says, I must be careful of the body so that I may go steadily and finally attain liberation. The jnani feels that he cannot wait. He must reach the goal this very moment. He says, I am free through eternity. I am never bound. I am the God of the universe through all eternity. Who shall make me perfect? I am perfect already. When a man says he is perfect, he sees perfection in others. When he sees imperfection, it is his own mind projecting itself. How can he see imperfection if he has not got it in himself? So the jnani does not care for perfection or imperfection. None exists for him. As soon as he is free, he does not see good and evil. Who sees evil and good? He who has it in himself. He who sees the body, he who thinks he is the body. The moment you get rid of the idea that you are the body, you do not see the world at all. It vanishes forever. The jnani seeks to tear himself away from this bondage of matter by the force of intellectual conviction. This is the negative way, the neti, neti, not this, not this.